Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Heisenflay, and today is the day where I talk about my fan project, Lota Side Zero. But not exactly Lota Side Zero, but more of the iterations that led up to it. You see, Lota Side Zero is my magnum opus. It is basically my first work of fiction with a cast that is predominantly made up of original characters. It is my largest female cast ever after years of struggling to portray female characters in a non misogynistic way, in a way that could convey uh, uh, convey how I feel about women, both positives and negatives, without just sounding like an idiot. And despite the fact that I kind of sound like an idiot right now, I promise you that my characters, they are very well written, despite the fact that they are a part of groups that I will probably never know half of what they do and what they struggle with. But the best I can do is try to learn about those groups, right? So, um, before this, um, what was there before Lotus Side Zero? Now, well, I can't tell you much about Lotus Side Zero because I want to keep certain things a surprise. I want to keep you guys guessing because, of course, once I pick up an audience, I don't want everything to be on the table. Then there's nothing to look forward to. So, um, you know, first we have Proto Lota. This is Lota before I even really got involved in it because this was originally a thing between my cousin and my brother. I'm going to give them Mobile Suit themed nicknames. Shryru and Barzam. Yeah, those are going to be their names. So they are who are mostly involved with this. And I would argue that the most important part of Proto Loda was Hryru. And this might be, biased because he's my brother, but he does have an extremely creative mind. He wants to go into music, and he wanted to develop games. He likes wrestling and whatnot. So he's like a very creative person. Pretty talented. So it's like he. I wouldn't be surprised if he was the more important part more of the brain, because he's not really in much of an actor, which is kind of a pretty good part of what Loda is really about. At least when you know at least when we all play together. But it. But the brain is a very important part of Loda as well. So who's the main character? I have no idea, as I wasn't involved, and therefore details on how things went down are sparse at best. But my best guess is Hryu's character Beardstar. He is a creator, and throughout Loda lore, he created Earth. Of course, this probably wasn't the case in Proto Loda. So the current lore of Proto Loda, once again, unknown. The setting, unknown. The factions, unknown. The overall feel and genre, comedic. It was very comedic before I stepped in. Um, and my opinion on it slash verdict. Um, I don't really have much of an opinion, but I would like to believe that this was very good. So I'm going to go with, a solid 6 out of 10. So then there's Loda Mark II. As for who's involved, that would be me, Barzam, and Hryru. And as for who's the most important, I'd give that to Hryru again. Although Barzam did step in to make sure I didn't ruin too much. Because I did ruin a lot in Lota Mark II when I stepped in, because I wasn't used to this. Who's the main character? Well, I kind of barged in and made myself the main character immediately because I was an egotistical little kid. I was like 9 years old. Well, not 9 years old. I was 8 years old at the time of Lota Mark II. Proto Lota was, 5 years old. Well, because me and Hryru are twins. Therefore, I probably should have named him Hazenplay then. So, but we'll stick with Hryru because I already went with it. So, me and Hryru, we are twins. Therefore, we are the same age. So we were both 5 at the time of Proto Lota, Lota Mark II. We were 7, and I quantify eras of Lota as there needs to be changes in the characters, the setting, and the lore. Of course, the last two can be seen as the same, but there needs to be a change in either one of these 3 things, or all 3 at the same time. And you'll see how drastic things get. And there needs to be either a massive enough shift over time, or a pretty big shift all at once. So, yeah. So the main character would be whatever character I had at this time, which would be a character named Strife, because most of my characters at the time were Five Nights at Freddy's characters, FNAF clones, Transformers characters, and Halo characters. My main character was a Foxy clone named Strife. He had these like rainbow stripes on his arms and can form these rainbow Wolverine blades and shoot rainbow beams. I know, it's insane, and not in a good way. So the lore was, these were just FNAF animatronics in a massive infinite pizzeria, and they just did stuff. That's pretty it. That it was pretty much it. The setting, well, was the pizzeria, not a specific Freddy Fazbear pizzeria at all. Just a pizzeria, the pizzeria actually, and the overall feel / genre would be comedy for the most part, but I did try to make it very serious because I was big on Michael Bay Transformers. Therefore, things got pretty dicey at times. In my opinion, Lota Mark II is, well, didn't really like it because it was genuinely just bad. Didn't really have any good characters at the time that were even slightly original. It was just it was all over the place. I just frantically waved my hand for those who don't know what that sound was. Then there is Trilota. So who is involved? Once again, the same people, me, Hryru, and Barzam. Who's the most important? Now, at this point, it kind of started to be like all 3 of us were contributing just as much. Of course, since I was very overly enthusiastic about this, I started to try and really contribute a lot. Started coming up with ideas while at school, while at home, while I was laying down to go to bed. I was thinking about Lota constantly. It basically took over my life. Because it was really easy for it to, because I integrated my favorite things into it. And that was kind of the thing with Lota. It was anything that me, Hryru, and Barzam wanted it to be. And because at this point we knew each other better, we had known each other longer. At this point we were like 10. We had known each other ever since we were 5. So our personalities gelled together a bit more. But this was at a time when me and Barzam did not get along too well. But somehow I managed to find a common ground when it came to Lota. It was the thing that united us. We stopped spilling each other's blood, and we were like, bet. Let's come up with something truly awesome. And this era of Lota, Tri-Lota, wasn't too bad. It was definitely better than Lota Mark II. Um, so the main character was basically another FNAF clone. But she was definitely a lot better than Strife was. She was an incredibly suggestive clone of Mangle named AK. She went through a lot of color variations and a lot of proportional variations and whatnot. And I have a final version, but I don't think I can show it on YouTube, even though my channel is extremely small and I haven't gotten tackled for anything specifically. I feel like I just can't really show this version. So I might post it up on my Twitter. My Twitter being TR6 Woundwort Gundam, if you want to follow me there. So yeah, the main character at this point is my is my main girl AK, and her split personality sister kind of characters. Now, as for current lore, well, since I was a massive Wolfenstein fan, it was very centered around World War II with a lot of real-world influence. There were Nazis and whatnot and all that stuff. And basically, AK was a unit developed by the British military. Yeah, I know. The FNAF animatronics were weapons developed by the U.S., British, and Bulgarian militaries. Yeah, they're pretty insane. So, yeah, she was a super weapon developed by the British military, a robotic super soldier given full sentience, completely self-aware from the jump, but still incredibly stupid because it's funny, I guess. So the war ends, and she still gets flashbacks periodically. So yeah, and that's basically the current war. Humans and Lodians, which are basically all the non-human entities, beings like Superman, the Rake, the Chupacabra and whatnot, XJ9 from ML My Life as a Teenage Robot. They'd be Lodians. So anything that is not a human, but also not an animal, is a Lodian. So like things like furries and whatnot, they'd be Lodians. Well, not human furries, but like anthropomorphic animal furries. So that is the lore. The setting is I'm pretty sure the Mexico-American border, because back where I lived at the time, there were a bit of high tensions between Mexicans and African Americans. Yeah. At least at my school and whatnot. So made it the Mexican American border, and was kind of extremely racist towards Mexicans at the time. So yeah. So basically, there was this massive wall. It was called the Lota Wall, and it kept all of the Lodians inside. And Lodians had a tough run of things. There was a massive kind of like bloody war between humans and Lodians. Yeah. So the feel is much better because me, Barzam, and Hirairu's overall aesthetics kind of gelled together much better than the previous two. So it was genuinely just better than Lota Mark II. So you know, yeah, Tri-Lota was a lot better. So overall, Tri-Lota is good. Then there was the fourth generation, which this is when I started getting involved in mecha. So, and I specifically remember around this time when I was 11 or 12, I saw the trailer for Armored Core 4 Answer, um, and I really liked it. I didn't know anything about it, but I really liked it. I liked White Glint, and I thought it was this other mecha thing that I saw called Planzet. I'm pretty sure it's called. Yeah, that's why I named the fourth generation of Lota 4 Answer. And in this, when it comes to who's involved, it is me. Well, once again, the Three Musketeers themselves, the three Titans mobile suits, me, Hyrule Barzam. Who's the most important? Once again, we all were contributing equally around this time. The main character is AK, but started to become this other mysterious man named, well, it's named after me, but like my real names. But like, the last name was fake. So we'll just call him Mr. Amersoft for now. So Mr. Amersoft was one of the other main characters and was constantly kind of fighting against AK for main character spot. But not actually. Like, they weren't actually fighting to be the main character and fighting for my love or whatnot. But they were, like, always trying to kill each other, At least from what I remember. The lore was relatively the same, except we elaborated a bit more on the war between the humans and the Lodians, changed the location because I realized my whole like Mexican-American border thing was kind of uncalled for, and the way I paid attention to it, like the way I kind of zoned in on it a lot, was very insensitive, very mean. So now the Lota Wall is just somewhere in the middle of Kentucky, I believe. At least from what I remember. Don't know why Kentucky, but it's Kentucky. So, the lore is just kind of expanded on. We added a bit more detail, changed it around a little bit. Basically, I gave Hitler a bunch of different kinds of mechs, and I gave him a Gundam without realizing I gave him a Gundam. I'm pretty sure it was the Barbatos. I regret that now because now I kind of forever associate the Barbatos with Hitler. Not really, but like kind of. And now just kind of thinking about the Barbatos doesn't exactly feel right to me. It was a big mistake. And there is a category that I've been having that I've been skipping over, and that is factions. Because there aren't exactly any factions, because I never really went into factions too much before Lota Side Zero, which is what this video is going to most likely be titled after. And that's stupid of me. But I didn't really think about factions all too much. But there are factions in Lota 4 Answer. Those factions being Amersoft Tech, the K-Gang, and Nerve. They're named after the guys from Evangelion, but they're not the guys from Evangelion. They're anti-Lodian scientists who get their answers by performing the most depraved kind of experiments on Lodians ever. So that's their entire thing. They're cruelty scientists. The overall feel was a fair bit darker, but still had the comedic tones. We were starting to gel together a whole lot better, despite the fact that this is around a time when me and Barzam got each other's throats and things were, getting worse and worse. To the point where I was actually kind of banned from Barzam's house for a bit due to a massive fight we had. So, things were getting bad between us, but Lota once again was the thing that brought us together. So then we move on to Pentalota. Now at this point, I was trying to get other people involved, people at my school involved, and there was this kid. We'll call him. There was this kid. I don't think he's too important, but he did. He did influence some stuff later on, so I'll give him an alias, and we'll call him Nemo. Not Nemo as in Finding Nemo. Nemo as in the mobile suit Nemo. So, he was kind of involved in Pentalota. He influenced it and some things later on. Specifically, me and specifically some Pacific Rim related things. So, who's the most important? Now, due to current circumstances, Harairu and Barzam were kind of pulling out of Lota for a little bit because they felt I was taking a heavy effect on Lota. They had especially strong feelings about me in Lota for a while. So the most important was me, but not like in a good way, because they were just both pulling out, not really adding as much, because I was doing all the adding, but they weren't really enjoying anything I was adding or just enjoying playing anymore. So the main character was Mr. Amersoft and AK. Yeah. So, also, so the lore stayed the same, the setting stayed the same, but a little particular thing about the setting is different now. All of the main characters live in this place called the Lota House. It is just a massive house in which all of our characters live in. And I like that idea, but it got thrown out a while back. The factions stay the same, and the feel and genre are a lot more lighthearted. And my opinion / verdict is a lot better than the last one, and I think that Pentalota was genuinely actually pretty good. Then there are the Dark Ages, when I finally got involved with Gundam and really wanted to share it with people. As for who's involved, at this point, Barzam and Harairu had come back to Lota, basically. So, it's just they were fully involved at this point. Matter of fact, I was kind of starting to mentally pull out a little bit, but I kind of shoved myself back in after I realized that they were in it again, that they were in it, and wanting to contribute with me. Once of course I started calming down with all the crap that I was putting in that they didn't like. So, for who's the most important, that would be Barzam and Harairu, because once again at the time I was kind of mentally pulling out and had to push myself back in right after I realized, oh crap, they're in this and not and they might and they're actually kind of in this for me. They care about me. So, I pushed myself back in, but of course, they still added more than I did to the Dark Ages, but Why do I call this the Dark Ages? Because around this time I had a massive love for Gundam designs, and while I did not know half of the mobile suits of Gundam, I didn't even know a quarter. I didn't even know a third of a quarter of the mobile suits from Gundam, and I did not know, and I knew where even less of them came from. I wanted to add as many as I possibly could to Lota, and and, you know, and the main character changed again, and this time it went from AK to Mr. Amersoft. And I'm gonna change it from Mr. Amersoft to something that's slightly similar to my name in only a few aspects. Malcolm. Uh, so yeah, Malcolm Amersoft becomes the full time main character, and AK is pushed to the back. Of course, the K gang is still a thing, but Malcolm is now the dude. He's that dude now. So the lore is relatively the same, but the setting is different. The Lota house is starting to be omitted, and now everyone's starting to live on the same block, on the same neighborhood. And the overall, you know, and then there's the factions, which include, well, the K Gang, Ambersoft Tech, Nerve, and of course my attempt at adding mobile suits, which they were just kind of called the Gundams, because that was back when I called every mobile suit. Well, that was back when I thought there were only just Gundams and Xeon mobile suits. Yeah, no Federation, no Titans, no knowledge of any of those, just Gundams and Xeon mobile suits. And even then, the only ones I knew of were the Zaku's and the Kampfer. So, yeah, pretty freaking stupid. And that is why it was called the Dark Ages. So, the feeling genre was a lot more balanced. Wasn't too lighthearted, but it also wasn't too dark. My opinion is that it was good, but not as good as Pentalota, mainly because of the lack of mobile suits and lack of properly handling mobile suits. But then they allowed me to put in mobile suits, and because, once again, I didn't know how to handle them, it went badly. Lotus Suit Dum Dum was the most short-lived generation of Lota to ever exist. As for who's involved, it was mostly me. I was the most important person in this failure of a generation. I don't want to give Hiraru or Barzam any credit for this, because that would be an insult to them. And I can't blame them, because Lotus Suit Dum Dum is the worst. The lore is the same. The setting is the same. The factions include the Gundams and Xeon, once again. The verdict, awful. Hate it. I just hate it. Yeah. So then there's Lota, the Nakamura age. And this is when Malcolm Nakamura, well, this is when Malcolm Amersoft becomes Malcolm Nakamura. Once again, this character's named after me, so I'm giving him a name that has some similarities to my real name. So, just for the sake of ease of utterance. So, in the Nakamura age, it's mostly me involved, but everyone is as important. Just me, Krairu, and Barzam. Who's the main character? Malcolm Nakamura. The current lore is Well, basically the same, but all of a sudden, this rich Iron Man like playboy who is a fox, well, a anthropomorphic fox with no snout because I couldn't draw snouts, and weird robotic ears comes in, and he's like, "Oh crap, this place cool. I'm gonna fund it and put all these stupid humans to shame." And with his cool technology and coolness, he puts humanity to shame and stuff. He doesn't kill them or anything. It's just that. So the setting is now in this new fictional place called Skydive Point. It is this piece of Japan that broke off and somehow drifted all the way to America. But not only that, but collided in such a way that it fused with the tri-state area. I don't know. That's just that's just how it is. That's just how it is. Um, then, yeah, the factions, on the other hand, the factions were starting to burst at the seams. As I gained more knowledge of Gundam, I added some more mobile suits, but I didn't give them any factions that they belonged to. So the factions just included the K Gang, the Lota Wall Agency, the Human Government, the United States Military, and Nakamura Tech. The feel was comedic, but also satirical. Like this was when this was when me and Barzam and Harairu were getting a lot more smarmy with our humor. Oh, we were a lot more unlikable then. Yeah, so then there's Lota Zedas. And this is, as for who's involved, it was once again the three of us. But there was a little bit of involvement from another third party who I will call, for the sake of her anonymity, I'm going to call her GN Archer, or just Archer. So, yeah, GN Archer would start to get involved a little bit, but she would get a lot more involved with the next two generations. But we'll get to those in a little bit. So, Lota Zedas is well, as for who was the most important to it was me, because I came up with Zedas in its entirety. So for who's the main character, it is Malcolm Nakamura, and as for the lore is a whole lot different. Basically, it is completely different. Lodians are a separate kind of evolution path from humans, and they were both on different sides of the earth, Lodians and humans, for a long time, and there were smart Lodians, and there were dumb Lodians, and the dumb Lodians went to humans, and they were mostly kind of bred out of existence, and there were some humans that inherited the powers of the dumb Lodians, but they didn't really have a separate designation, so they were still humans. So yeah, then the smart Lodians kind of kept to themselves, kept building their society and their technology, and in modern day, they're united, but their unity is fragile at best, and it's not bleak, but it's like, just kind of like just like a lot more like solemn and stoic and real, There were a lot of moments where it was just kind of like evil won, and that was just how it was. And even though he was the main character, Malcolm Nakamura was actually the main antagonist. And there were a lot of times where he just won. And now onto the settings. We stay in Skydive Point for pretty sure there's a mouse on that table over there. Nope, just my extension cord. Sorry. Where was I, ladies and gentlemen? You know, I was lacking on my ladies and gentlemen quota. Yeah. We stay in Skydive Point, except, well, soon Skydive Point will get a bit more realistic. Well, not realistic, but like, it'll get a bit less crazy with how it formed. You know, we'll leave the whole, it's a piece of Japan that just drifted away. And of course it was Tokyo because I was a weeb, and Tokyo had all the cool anime stuff. So, you know, it needed to be Tokyo or else it wasn't Japan at all. So, you know, I respected the culture a lot back then. You can tell by the blatant appropriation of a Japanese name for a character that was before now American. So yeah, setting still Skydive Point, but the factions are different. It now includes Nakamura Tech. It now includes the K Gang. Well, basically everyone from before, but Nakamura Tech is in cahoots with Zedos. Zedos being a group led by Miles Nakamura. And it is insane when you hear this, but bear with me. Zedos consists of as many women as Malcolm Nakamura could possibly be married to. It's insane. Absolutely insane. It's crazy, and I don't know how I had the balls to do something like that. And of course, nowadays, I have something similar, but it's way more scaled down. Like, I still have, like, the polygamy thing going on because, you know, I want to push boundaries with Lota Side Zero, but I also want to be like I also want to show that certain things aren't that bad. Polygamy being one of them, because, you know, I know some people that aren't ashamed of the idea and that, you know, are fine with it. I'm fine with it as well. I realize that it's not hurting anyone as long as everyone is a consenting adult. So it's really fine. So yeah, but the way Miles not fuck. Oh shit. Well, there goes my real name, I guess. So there it is, I guess. So yeah, the way Miles Nakamura does the way Miles Nakamura does it is egregious, to say the least. Listen, my real name, well, it doesn't just stay in this video, but outside of YouTube, I am Miles. But here, ladies and gentlemen, I am Heisenflay. Alright? I hope that we can keep it that way. At least for now. Alright? Thank you. It's alright. Zedos is alright. But it's not the worst of my transgressions against female characters and all of womankind. You'll see that soon. Especially with this next one, Sarkaz. So, the overall feel is a lot more comedic, but also a lot more suggestive due to the fact that My character is literally married to almost every woman in the universe. I was so darn egotistical. Yeah. Then there's Sarkaz. Sarkaz, which is when I finally managed to get people from my school involved into Lota. So, I'm gonna come up with some more aliases for them. Uh, so, hmm. So, uh, hmm. Uh, so, I'm gonna have them go by the characters that I created for them. That being Jacob Averdale, Alex Takeshi, Ivy Takeshi, Chris Destructor, I believe. Yeah, Chris Destructor, Talib Red Dead, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, these characters were a part of a group that I formed with my friends back at that school, called Sarkaz. And believe me when I say that was the worst incarnation of Loda ever. Well, the best and the worst, because I kind of realized the joy of kind of writing a whole lot of characters and, making factions and, developing all of those factions and characters and, making them, cool and going through the trial and error of just designing them and, you know, making their lore and whatnot. But I also came up with an atrocious, an atrocious, an atrocious uh, affront to any and every woman to ever exist, and that crime was Meggie. Who is Meggie? Basically, she is Jobby the Hong's Megatron girl, but made shorter and an object, a complete and total object. She is a lolly for Miles Nakamura, Sarkaz era Miles Nakamura, to parade around, abuse, and, you know, get down with. I know, it's awful, but, and the fact that he gets down with his girlfriend isn't bad, but, like, what Maggie is just kind of makes it wrong. It is the fact that she looks, well, kind of looks like a little girl. She's like, she has adult features that are visible. And I'm not just talking about, like, body wise. Like, she actually has a bit of an aged face, but she, but she acts like a kid. She is the height of a kid, and I feel like those two make it so that she's kind of like like extremely wrong. So it's like not my finest hour, but at the same time can't backpedal now. So yeah, I kind of regret Maggie in every way, and I'm atoning for her existence by making a version of Jobby the Hung's Megatron Girl that is not only accurate to the source material, but actually is going to start off being Miles Nakamura's rival. So that's going to be an interesting thing. And don't worry, I'm not going to have her automatically turn around and be the love interest. If they're going to be love interests, I'm going to, like, make it I'm gonna try my best to make it feel natural. I'm going to have there actually be chemistry, have there be a friendship first and whatnot, you know. So yeah. Anyways, so the who's the most important in Sarkaz? Um, that that would be me, because there was barely any stuff from Barzam or Hryru. So, you know, it was mostly just me. I did all of the art. I did all of the storytelling. The others, Jacob Abverdale, Talib, Red Dead, Alex and Ivy, Takeshi and whatnot, they all just did the acting. I did all of like the concept art, all of the character design, all of the storytelling, all of the lore. So, and speaking of the lore, what is the lore? I mean, you already know the main. You already know that I'm the main character. Miles Nakamura. Since I did most of the stuff, I feel like I kind of deserve to be the main character in that. But then Meggy, and we all instantly realize that I don't deserve much of anything in this. So, please ignore all of the credit that I just gave myself, because Meggy instantly nullifies all of the good I did for Sarkaz. So then there's the lore, which the lore is just after a post-apocalyptic war that wipes out all the humans. The only thing that is left are Lodians. Miles Nakamura and his friends over at Sarkaz, and his friends over at Sarkaz, formerly APZ, standing for Anti-Project Zorgo. I know. We watched Shadowwild Clay. Please don't unsubscribe if you were even going to in the first place. And if you didn't unsubscribe after hearing about Meggy, please, I promise I'm better. So, Sarkaz is, they formed Sarkaz. As to why, they kind of don't know. There's not really any threats or anything. They just wanted to form a cool, they just kind of wanted to form a cool PMC, and they did. They have mobile suits, and stuff like that. They have full funding and whatnot. They have a lot of soldiers, a lot of money to mass produce stuff. In general, they are doing really well. Their only enemies being Raiden, not the one from Metal Gear Rising or Genshin Impact or Mortal Kombat, but being just a guy with a sword who's Australian. And then Edelstein and Nefex, and I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the factions. But the factions are just kind of just villains who I call factions because they have many billions of clones of themselves. So they're technically an army. So yeah, the setting is post-apocalyptic Earth. The overall feel is comedic, but also extremely bleak due to the situation. The verdict, I would give it a very good verdict, but Meggy. So instantly, no, just destroyed, bad, get rid of it. So then there is Lota Chloe, and this is when GNR gets very involved. So for now, we omit Barzam because Barzam kind of had a bit of a falling out with me again. So, So yeah, this is when Gian Archer kind of picks up what Barzam put down for a bit. So for Lota Chloe, Gian Archer is the most important. As for who is the main character, it is Miles Nakamura and Chloe. And as for the lore, basically there's this rich girl named Chloe, and she is a god that runs the world. That's pretty much it. The setting is America, and the factions include Chloe, her company, her mother and father, and their companies, Miles Nakamura and his Nakamura Tech, unfortunately with Meggy, but a better version of Meggy that also just so happens to be Chloe's sister. And also, Sarkaz, because why not? So, the feel / genre is well, comedic. It's a comedy, but it's also a drama. So my verdict is good. I've had some rocky experiences with this with Chloe, particularly because it was back in a time when I wasn't too mentally stable. So obviously, it wasn't the best experience all the time. And Gian Archer not exactly being a very sensitive person, kind of she's just kind of just blunt, very blunt with how she says things. So altered my perception of Chloe. Of course, there's with Lota Side Zero comes a new version of Chloe, but I still count it as Chloe since the lore didn't change too much, and nothing really changed too much. Then there is Lota Rewrite 1, which is a Lota rewrite that we did when Barzam came back, and the most important person, well, I guess, is Barzam, since he himself suggested that we rewrite Lota in the first place. The main character being Miles Nakamura, Haru's character Haru's character Skelly, who is almost as iconic as Beardstar within the Lota universe, but for different reasons. Skelly is this incredibly sarcastic and extremely rude and brash skeleton. It's what you get if you combine Gordon Ramsay with iDubbbz and Markiplier, I guess. And that is fitting, since in recent times, Skelly and Markiplier are related in Lota lore, which is strange. But you know what? I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm going to let you guys decide if that should be kept for later versions of, Side Zero and whatnot. And yes, that is a part of Side Zero lore. I did just give you something from Side Zero, despite the fact that I wasn't going to say anything about it. So, eat that up, I guess. So, yeah, the lore is just... it's the same as the Nakamura age. Smart Lodians, dumb Lodians go to humans and, get bred out. And Lota Wall gets torn down. Mobile suits come in, aliens come in. They're all classified as Lodians. And there's just like a massive thing going on with humans and Lodians being at odds. And, Miles Nakamura is building something. And the farthest we got with this is Luna from Hell of a Boss coming in and single-handedly discouraging Miles Nakamura from doing his entire thing, making it so that, the events kind of just don't really take off at all. The setting is in an extremely dark and bleak USA. Um, the factions include the U.S. military and Nakamura Tech for a little bit. The feel is dark and bleak, and my verdict is it's alright, but it didn't really get off the ground. So that's when we had a second rewrite. Now, this rewrite, I was the most involved in it, but everyone, and I mean, and like basically everyone from Barzam and Hryru to Gian Archer and my mom were involved in this to some extent. So the most important person in this was both me and my brother Hryru. So the main character is Miles Nakamura, and the lore is that one day uh, Miles Nakamura's family came to Earth and settled down and thought it would be a good idea to help the species on Earth evolve. So, so yeah, they helped them evolve their technology, and Miles's father Ezra Nakamura had a son, and he was disappointed and he was disappointed with his first son, so he killed him. Had another son, killed him. Had another son, killed him. Had another son, killed him. He kept having sons until he had Miles. And Miles Nakamura was great. He had all this power, all of this, stuff, because he was the main character. And, he had another son who was supposed to be a self-insert of Hryru, but I'm not going to go any more about him because I might accidentally leak his name like I did with, mine. So we're just gonna call him E Nakamura. Yeah, we're gonna call him E Nakamura. So Aegis. We're gonna call him Aegis Nakamura. So Aegis and Miles were good. They had all this power and stuff, but then they were kicked out because they questioned Ezra. So, yeah. Aegis would go his own separate way and form a group of hitmen called the Parlor Club. And Miles would go to high school. Well, not go to high school. First, he would move to the slums with his bodyguard, Ryuga Hanao, and her friends Kaga and Takagi. Now, notice how these are characters that are already a part of a established properties. Ryuga Hanao is someone else's OC, but I stole her off the internet. But I do intend on giving her her own kind of design. I'm just using the design that I stole as a placeholder for now. Not only will I credit the artist, but I will give but will not give the design back because I didn't take the only copy of the design. But I will credit them, and do what I need to do to make it right. But for now, I do need a placeholder for when I need to show what I need from the designers. So, Ryuga Hanao, Kaga Nakagi, and Kaga Nakagi are part of a established property, an established franchise, actually. I can get sued for using them. Well, you could say the same about Ryuga, but Kaga Nakagi are from Azure Lane. But just like with Ryuga and every other character that is from an established property, I try to make them original in other ways if I can make them original in looks. So yeah, then Miles lives with Ryuga, Kaga, and Akagi. He gets a Pikachu and an Umbreon and names them Maddie and Kazi. Maddie being the name of the Umbreon, Kazi being the name of the Pikachu. Did I say Pikachu and Umbreon, or did I say Eevee and Umbreon? He gets a Pikachu and an Umbreon. Umbreon. So, yeah. he's living happily, goes to high school, falls in love with this girl named Sacha. Um, and Dim and Sacha form, a beautiful relationship that totally isn't at all going to go down an extremely weird road. And by weird, I mean like secrets of the universe unveiled by like extremely strange plot devices weird. So, sorry, just cracking my knuckles. So yeah, in the rewrite in rewrite 2, that is the lore. In the settings, the setting is just it is Skydive Point, except I guess most of America is Skydive Point. So factions, Nakamura Tech, Ezra's Nakamura Tech, and Miles's high school rival club, which is which they're the Parlor Club, and they're like a fake Parlor Club. They're fakes who want to act tough and like they're in a gang, so they call themselves the Parlor Club, and they attract attention from the real Parlor Club, and that ends as well as you think it does. So the real Parlor Club being one of the actual factions. And there's also the U.S. military, because of course there is. And as for the feeling genre, it is a lot more lighthearted. It is slice of life. It is a lot more lovey-dovey and whatnot because of Miles and Sacha. And the opinion/verdict is I really like it. It brings back some really cozy memories. And I actually tried to write a bit of a novel on DeviantArt about it. Didn't go too well because my writing skills were really bad. So didn't get too far. Then there is Lota the Banshee game. And Lota the Banshee game and Lota Banshee Legacy are the closest I can get to Side Zero without telling you too much. Basically, Lota the Banshee game is a version of Lota that I brought to my school and fully successfully integrated into my school. So basically, as for who's involved, there is my friend Cygnus Flynn there, that being an alias, and my other friend, let's see, alias, Sky Blue. Yeah, Sky Blue, we're going to call him Sky Blue. So Cygnus Flynn there, and Sky Blue. Who was the most important? I'd argue that all of us were equally as important in the creation of the Banshee game. So the main character being, the Banshee, the RX-0 and Unicorn Gundam 02 Banshee Norn. The current lore of the Banshee game is that after being created by Lazarus Labs, the Unicorn Gundam and the Phoenix ran away from the Earth Federation and Zeon to go and, to go and live their life alone. But after years of being chased by the Earth Federation and Zeon, Phoenix went to New Gundam for help, and Londo Bell is different from the Earth Federation in the Banshee game, because I didn't realize that they were both the same thing at the time. So they're two different things in the Banshee game. So she goes to Londo Bell for help, and New Gundam's like, all right, but you gotta sleep with me and then I'll help you. And she sleeps with him, and New Gundam, being an absolute douche, doesn't even lift a finger to help Phoenix and Unicorn afterwards. And Phoenix is now carrying this child. And, Unicorn finds out, he's pissed, he runs away, the relationship takes a massive hit, but they're still together. And that's how Narrative Gundam is born. And, of course, because of this, Banshee's dad is a pessimistic, overtly angry, borderline abusive, just shell of who he used to be. And Banshee's mom, Phoenix, is very supportive, but also extremely sad. And the main antagonist is the Sinanju from Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn. The red one, not the gray one. Although the gray one is involved. And of course, I'm telling you as much as I can possibly tell you, because there are a whole lot of details that kind of, in the grand scheme of things, match up perfectly with Side Zero, so I can't really tell you about them. So yeah, Banshee is just fighting against Neo Zeon and the Earth Federation out of revenge. And by the way, Banshee's origin, well, narrative Gundam's origin is a Side Zero thing, but I feel like it is important and integral to Banshee's story. So I guess by my logic, I shouldn't have told you anything about the Banshee game, but I wanted to because, well, I thought it would be fun. So, yeah, my logic is kind of broken in some of the most crucial places, but in other most crucial places, I have good logic. So, anyways, as for the lore, this is the future. It is the year 3037, and Banshee is just kind of fighting against Lazarus Labs. They want to create some new mobile suits. They harvest this new material called Psycho Frame. They use it to make a mobile suit called the Unicorn Gundam Perfectibility. And it flies off and just creates a whole rift in space-time. And, then they make another Unicorn Gundam. And this one is just, and it's just the normal white and red unicorn. And he's, all well and good for a while. Then they create the Phoenix. And they both realize their worth and realize that they're being treated badly and exploited and whatnot. And they both run off. And then, after realizing that, Psycho Frame experiments don't exactly work all too much, instead of creating a mobile suit with no Psycho Frame, they create the Sinanju Stein. And, Zeon gets a hold of the Sinanju Stein. They make two more. Zeon gets a hold of those two more. And they make the Sinanju Stein narrative and the Sinanju. Of course, that being the red one. And that's, how the three Sinanjus came into being. There is Sazabi, and he's the leader of Zeon. And he's like, basically kind of the Dr. Claw of the show, basically, for most of it. Well, not the show, but the game for, most of it. Until he steps up and kicks everyone's butt and basically just kind of goes back to sitting down, and Banshee has to work up to being Sazabi level. Yeah, so setting is once again Skydive Point. Factions are Banshee's a little is Banshee's a little resistance group. Banshee's a little resistance group. And Zeon, the Federation, and Londo Bell. Feel and genre, it's comedic, slice of life, but also a bit bleak at times. Opinion and verdict, I like the Banshee game. Once again, brings up some cozy memories for me. Then there's Banshee Legacy, which is getting a lot closer to Side Zero. It's relatively the same. Who is involved is the same, that being Cygnus Flynn there and Quadri. Wrong name, Miles. Wrong freaking name. Quadri is a different dude from an entirely different school. Why did you say Quadri? Why did you say Quadri? That is a different name from a different school. That is a different alias. You're getting aliases mixed up entirely now. First you leak your own name, now you're mixing up aliases. You dumb. I'm so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So yeah, Quadri, not the right name. Different alias, different school, different person. Not even sure if Quadri is an actual name. Um. Yeah. So Cygnus and Sky Blue are involved in Banshee Legacy. Most important, this is around the time of COVID, so I kind of lost contact with Sky Blue due to the fact that he was younger than me and Cygnus Planet there. So so me and Cygnus, we kept touch on Discord. So yeah. So yeah, we kind of, kept everything, on the up and up and whatnot. Yeah, so the main character was still Banshee. Well, Banshee and Cygnus at this point. By the time COVID hit, it was Banshee, Cygnus, and a few others. May or may not include the character that is my profile picture and my banner and the namesake of my entire channel. As for the lore, it is basically the same, except more mobile suits came to Earth after Phoenix was forced to sleep with New Gundam, and they kind of set up shop and either joined Zeon or made their own kind of force. There's Gundam Vidar, and he's like running around as a lone wolf, causing trouble for Banshee. And as for the setting, it is still Skydive Point, but also, in addition to Skydive Point, there are some other countries. There's Australia, and Australia's Forbidden Forests, which is to my knowledge, fictional location. But what would probably make it fictional, I guess, is the fact that it has a bunch of mystical creatures in it. Lots of like mystical creatures and dangerous creatures like the Chupacabra, Ursa Major, and whatnot. Yeah, and the unicorns, they don't leave the Forbidden Forest and go into the city, because that's where Zeon is, and Zeon's waiting for them to shoot them down and capture them as soon as they enter the city. So they don't go into the city unless Banshee's ready for them to attack. So yeah, and there's the factions, which are the same. Banshee's gang, which near to COVID, near to the first outbreak of COVID and the first part of quarantine, is when Banshee actually starts. Well, when I have Banshee actually start to call the movement that he's creating Side Zero. I came up with this name on the fly. Never really thought about it all too much, and it was like, oh yeah, colonies are called Sides in Gundam. My main characters are Gundam. Let me call them. Let me call it Side Zero. But I didn't realize how well this actually fit, because the unicorns. The unicorns are anti-space-noid mobiles, especially the Banshee, because the Banshee's pilot is spewing all kinds of anti-new type garbo, and they're trying to eradicate the sides, Side Zero sides, also RX is zero, so I kind of thought of it to be pretty cool once I kind of like made all those connections. And I was like, oh. And I realized that now I realized like a couple like months ago that kind of sounds stupid. So I had it be like the colony that created the Banshee types. I forewent Lazarus Labs in Side Zero. Well, in Lota Side Zero. Yeah, so then there's the factions. Then there's the rest of the factions, which would include the Wing Gundams, the mobile system from IBO, but they're called Demonos, I believe. And every other universe mobile suit is just kind of just kind of wrapped up and rolled into Mafti. Yeah, that's the truth. God Gundam, Mafti. Gundam X, Mafti. Zeta Gundam, Mafti. I know it's weird, but I kind of like it. So yeah, for feel and genre, Banshee Legacy was a lot more action packed. It was at the point where that was the point where I kind of was able to do recess again, and since it was at school, I got to do a lot more of my stunts. Got to be a lot more action packed. Got to be a lot more loud. So it definitely had a lot more emotion and exhilaration behind it. Even when looking at it, even when trying not to look at it through rose-tinted glasses, it's hard not to love Banshee Legacy. But then COVID rolled around, and I had to do quarantine. But that's when I got to develop Side Zero. And because of Side Zero and how much imagination I got to put into it and how much I developed it, the first part of quarantine, the very first part during March of 2019 to 2020 was kind of the best years of my life almost. Really, like, honestly. I know that that's probably insensitive to say, but that's just the truth. It is a massive part of me, and I would have never had Side Zero, my magnum opus, and the thing I hold the closest and most dear to me, if it were never for the perfect timing of Banshee Legacy and quarantine. So for the verdict of Banshee Legacy and subsequently Side Zero, I give a perfect 10 out of 10 because I could not feel any better about Banshee Legacy and Side Zero. Now for Side Zero, who's involved? Me and Hirairu. Yeah, Barzam ain't too involved. There's been some Cygnus involvement and involvement from from a friend of mine from a friend of mine from high school that I met back up with recently. I'm going to call him Archimus Prime because he's into Transformers. So yeah. So Gian Archer's also involved, and Barzam was only kind of involved. Of course, most important person in this entire thing, I'd say probably me or Hirairu. Hirairu because he stuck around for so long, and he added a lot to Side Zero that I actually never really thought about. But also, I want to say me because I was most of the brain behind Side Zero. I did a lot of the thinking. Of course, Cygnus did a lot. Cygnus did a lot of, helping with brainstorming and storytelling and whatnot. Who's the main character? Well, can't really share that. Can't really share the lore. The setting is all over the world, actually, including Skydive Point. I changed the lore behind Skydive Point as well, but I'm not going to share that yet. The factions, basically every faction I could possibly fit in without overpacking it is put in there. As for the feel and genre, it is a massive roller coaster It is a whole lot of genres packed into one, but not too many. Side Zero already got a verdict of 10 out of 10, but I'm going to give it a verdict of 10 out of 10 again because it just is. I love Side Zero. You know, I cannot ruin, like, nothing you can say can ruin it for me, and nothing I can do or say can ruin it for me. It's just amazing. I love Side Zero. I did a great job with it. It is my best piece of work. And, you know, I had a lot of people pitch in to help me. So, you know, that was also very nice. You know, it was also another time when my mom kind of pitched in a bit. You know, that was very nice. So, you know, I like Side Zero. And I'm going to tell you all more soon, but I want to wait until the quality of my videos gets a bit better, until I have to pick up a bit of an audience, and until and I want to wait until I could start, like, you know, crowdsourcing and whatnot, start paying actors, because I want to start off with like an audio drama or something. I want to, like, start off with like something that isn't really animated, because, you know, that's going to take a lot of time, a lot of money. And I want to start off with like just like the characters kind of talking. I want to do something that concerns like voice acting myself, because, you know, I can do some pretty decent voices. They're not the best. I'm not going to win any awards anytime soon without any practice, but I can definitely, well, like, for someone who just kind of like grew up improving and, you know, kind of like copying based off of shows you watched, I can do pretty good. Like, my transatlantic accent ain't too bad. My Australian could use some work. I've all but forgotten my Russian at this point. African accent, awesome. Well, not awesome, but like good. My Irish slash Scottish accent, well, not slash Scottish because they're not the same, but my Irish and Scottish is getting better by the day. British needs some work, but point is, I can do some nice accents. I can do some nice voices. Got a good voice range. I'm not saying hire me, because I'm not a professional by any means, not even really amateur. I just kind of do it for fun because I like doing funny voices. And, you know, I like, you know, flexing my voice range because it's just fun to kind of like exercise your vocal cords by just making some cool voices and characters. That's pretty much that's pretty much it. So yeah, I will be back with, you know, more reviews, more Gunpla, but also more Side Zero and Lota. Thank you. I will see you all in the next video. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, believe in the Son of the Zeta and never surrender.